Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel. I'm your host, ArmaniTalks. In this channel, I'm covering communication skills for you to level up your way with words and become much more articulate. In today's episode, we're entering the world of storytelling, and we're going to be talking about Stephen King's discovery method of building his stories. If you've never heard of Stephen King, shame on you. No, I'm just joking. Stephen King is a very prolific, scary book writer. And a lot of his books are predominantly meant for adults. His stories have been turned into movies. And to this day, he continues to produce. The creator of Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin, one time was doing this dual interview with Stephen King. And he's like, Stephen, how do you write so many books? And Stephen went on to give his responses. And one of the main things from Stephen King's whole philosophy is rather rebellious. Here's how the discovery method works. Stephen King believes that a great story is presented. He's sort of like this guy that's scouring the earth and randomly finding these different bones. It's being discovered. And here's his philosophy, which is very different from a lot of storytellers. He's not one of those guys that likes to create these big, hefty outlines because he believes that it's hurting his creativity. Instead, this is how he pictures it. Imagine that Stephen King is sitting in this dark forest. He's been sitting there for some time, so eventually he gets some wood and he starts sparking the wood together in order to create fire. The fire is lit, so it's a little less dark in this dark forest right now. But here's the thing, this wood isn't going to last forever, and Stephen King doesn't know where else to find more wood in this forest. So as he's waiting, what begins to happen is that there's this other entity that comes out of the darkness, and this other entity is bringing their own wood. They come by and they drop the wood in the fire. The fire lights up just a little bit more. Then another character comes out of the woodworks with some of their own wood. They come through and they put their own wood in the campfire and it lights up even more. Repeat this process, and what begins to happen is that there are more characters that are now surrounding this campfire. The light is blazing, and each of these characters are talking about who they exactly are. What are their problems, their desires, their conflicts, and such. And this is exactly what Stephen King believes storytelling should be like. It's as though you're beginning and you have a little bit of wood, but as you progress with the story, what begins to happen is that more and more characters begin to reveal themselves to you, and this keeps the story highly unpredictable. Often, Stephen King doesn't even know where his stories are going to take them. Now, who is this formula for, where you're just over here beginning the story without any form of preparation, any form of outlining? It's for the rebellious people. There are certain people that are like, the whole idea of outlining the story just takes the fun out of it. It feels as though I'm making it too logical. I would rather just begin. Well, go ahead, just begin. I mean, one of the most prolific storytellers of all time does that. Now, here's another little caveat to all of this. You don't necessarily need to just choose sides. And I'll tell you what I mean by this. For nonfiction books, I find it best when I create an outline, a very general outline. So let's say I'm writing a beginner's guide on how to write essays. I'll make a general outline with bullets and sub-bullets of what should be in the book. But let's say I'm writing a fiction book. One of my fiction books is called Cobra. This book, no outline at all. So you may have a similar strategy in terms of your content creation. With certain content pieces, the outline helps out tremendously, while with other content pieces, the Stephen King's discovery method helps out tremendously. Just understand that with storytelling, there are plenty of different ways to go about it. What works for one person may fall flat for another person. What works for beautifully for another person works just as well for another person. The only way to discover the right formula for yourself is to apply, create stories, and see what works, and then discard what doesn't work. If you want more practical insights like this into storytelling, be sure to check out my book, The Art and Science of Storytelling. In this book, you will learn how to build universes. You will learn how to turn your experiences into meaningful messages that other people can resonate with. You'll learn how to use stories in order to build your brand, plus plenty of other topics that you are not going to get in other storytelling books. Check out The Art and Science of Storytelling in the link in the description box, the pinned comment, or go on ArmaniTalks.com and grab your copy today. Thank you very much for joining the Armani Talks YouTube channel, and I will catch you next time.